Hi, this is a quick presentation on easy ways to gather SLO data. So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to create an SLO data pool. And to comply with accreditation requirements, it should be disaggregatable. That is to say, we should be able to break it down by whatever means we like, student population, online on campus, what have you. It should be fairly plentiful. It's not a data pool if there's only 5 data points every 3 years. It needs to be the means by which we connect course and service level SLOs to program and institutional SLOs, because one of the ways we can assess whether we're meeting our goals with, say, effective communication is by looking at all the SLOs that are linked to effective communication at the institutional level and seeing how students are doing in those courses and services. And it needs to be collected in a way that makes it available for program review. It's one of the data pools that we would look at for program review. Now, this means for a lot of people something a bit different from what we do. So this is an experiment this semester. We're trying to find a not one way to do SLO data, but a range of ways to do SLO data and some uniform scoring systems and a routine that we can all live by so we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. So to make sure we come up with a good one, we would like you to participate in this experiment by picking a method from this presentation for collecting SLO data, for gathering as much SLO data on your students as you can. At least one section from each prep. If you can do that, that would be wonderful. We'd like you to try to assign each student a score between 1 and 5. I know a lot of us have been doing sort of pass, no pass for SLOs, and we may end up keeping that as an option, but I'd like us to try at least the standard kind of Likert scale, because this is what most places seem to use. 1 is poor, 3 is competent, 5 is excellent. Bit like course grades. 1 and 2 is F and D, 3 is C, 4 is B, 5 is A. I'd like us all to record the scores in the most convenient way. Forget TrackDat for the moment. That is the software that we can configure to be what we need, but we first have to find out what we need. So just record the scores the easiest way and submit these results to the ASLT division by census of next term. So this presentation is about how to gather the SLO data. What are these easy methods? And the second is ways to record the scores that are also easy. So how to gather the data. The first thing you can do, obviously, is use coursework, because as teachers, this is already 75% of our job, finding out what students do and don't know. In some courses, you might want to do a capstone assignment, or you already do a capstone assignment, the kind of assignment at the end of semester where everything that a student has been practicing and learning is put together in a single performance or essay or what have you. If the language of the SLOs, and here are the SLOs for English 110, in fact, so it's a typo, is echoed in the prompt, then that capstone assignment is also an SLO assessment instrument, obviously. So applying critical thinking and reading skills to literary works, here it is in the prompt, convincing analysis. Writing fluent essays, and here it is in the prompt, write an essay. Use sources, and here it is in the prompt. So this assignment is definitely going to generate a score. How do you turn that into an SLO score? Well, as you're grading your capstone assignment, take another couple of seconds to do it holistically. This is particularly good if you only have, say, as with a lot of courses, maybe 2 or 3 learning outcomes. If you have just a few learning outcomes, then you can take a minute to ask yourself, well, here's a student, say, Chuck, great thesis, SLO 1, but disorganized paper, that's SLO 2, and no research paper, that's SLO 3. So you can holistically ask yourself, if I look at the different outcomes, how did the student do? And give them a score accordingly. You could also, if you like, align your rubric. A lot of people will use a grading rubric with the grades D through A. in the columns and the particular skills along the rows. If you add a column and align particular skills to a particular learning outcome, then your responses on this grid will give you an eyeball of a number. SLO1, for instance, in this rubric really applies to these first two rows. And here we see the students got 3 out of 5 in one, 4 out of 5 in another. SLO2 speaks to rows 1, 2, 3, about 4 or 5 rows there. And oh dear, most of the response is right here in the not passing side, not passing to passing, tiny bit of good. So here I would give this a 2 out of 5 if I were you, and so on. You can also, of course, if you don't have a capstone assignment, you can align a particular quiz or assignment or test to a particular SLO. This is good in some courses. I don't know if biology is one, but there are a lot of courses where you have to learn a lot of discrete skills or bits of knowledge, and it's just not convenient to have a mega assignment at the end to gauge it all. In this case, again, as with a capstone assignment, make sure the language of a particular test or quiz speaks to the particular SLO, and then the student grade on that can correspond to an SLO score. Here, for instance, is an outcome for Biology 100. Students will be able to perform, document, and analyze scientific experiments. The assignment could ask them to do just that, and their grade could double as an SLO score. Sometimes you do want to have a final exam with all the SLOs represented, but represented in different questions. So again, align a question with the particular learning outcome. Here are some made-up ones from Business 180. One of the SLOs is that students identify and communicate the purpose and role of marketing. Well, that could be a quiz question out of 5 points, and there's your SLO score. Multiple choice makes it easier, of course. It may be a little tricky there to align it with the score out of 5, but I don't think you have to be too worried about that. You can make it so that the score generates itself. So all of those were ways that you could use the actual testing instruments you use anyway to just generate an SLO score. But sometimes it just isn't convenient, or you don't want to use your in-course material, pedagogical material, to generate SLO scores. Okay, another option is, for especially for courses with a very set content, to create an exit quiz for a course that can be applied to any section. The downside of that is it can take a bit of time to do. The upside is once you've done it, all you have to do to get your SLO data is say to the students, oh, by the way, guys, don't forget to take this quiz, and I'll give you pizza or candy or whatever bribery you want to use. You could create one quiz question per SLO, score each one out of 5. Here are some jokey ones for a class that sadly does not exist. You could create 5 questions for each SLO, and so they'd get 1 point for each question. That would give you a 1 out of 5 score for each SLO. Here's modern architecture. You could use a pre and post quiz. A lot of faculty do this. You start out with 10 questions about the content of the course and ask the same 10 questions at the end. And if you, again, align it to the SLOs, it will give you an SLO score. Going forward, by the way, there should be ways to integrate quizzes like this in Canvas so that all you'd have to do is tell your students to pull that quiz out of the Canvas database. This turns out to be technically a bit difficult, so we haven't got there yet, but we're working on it. The third and final way to get SLO data is not to use coursework at all, but to use surveys. Now, obviously, these have shortcomings. They don't gauge student learning. They show us how students feel about what they've learned. But many of us feel that we already have a hell of a lot of information on student learning. So really, this can be useful as a comparison point. And it is very easy to collect. Not easy to format, as you can see on my PowerPoint. But for ancient philosophy, you explain in a quiz, these are the learning outcomes. Ask yourself, how well can you do this? From 1, I'm lost, to 5, confident, and 3 is okay. So in summary, you can align the coursework you give with SLOs so that you can, in effect, double your grading activity that you would do anyway to generate an SLO score. You can create a separate quiz once and then apply it to all sections, ideally an automated quiz so that it just gets scored and you don't even think about it. Or you can create a survey. You should know that if it is the third option, I don't see why we shouldn't just do this for you. If this is a very popular option, that's something that the college could just embed in everyone's webpage. Okay, so there's so much for collecting the data. Now, what about recording it? We don't want you to spend time doing crazy forms, and we haven't got a form embedded yet in WebSmart or anything because, again, we don't know what people are going to want. And it's a big production to get those things done. So, for right now, here's one option. You could use a copy of your official class record. I mean, this is already laid out like a grading sheet. So, as in here, if you've already automatically generated your SLO scores from assignments or however you've got it, you can simply write down the scores next to the student number. You can also, if you use a grade book and you've aligned a course assignment with a particular outcome, just give us your grade book. So here, for instance, this instructor hasn't done anything except highlight which of the assignments correspond to an SLO. So this instructor has told us that this assignment number 4 was for SLO 1, number 7 was for SLO 2, and so on. And the instructor's included a key. You know, F is 1, D is 2, C is 3, B is 4, A is 5. We could even adopt that as a college-wide policy, and then all you do is highlight the assignments that respond to an SLO, and we'll take care of the rest. Or, by the way, whatever works for you. People really record their grades in all kinds of different ways. So just do what suits you. If you were administering a survey or an exit quiz, you could ask the students to write their G number, and then you'd simply collect it and maybe clip your official form to it, and again, we could take care of the rest. So for submitting the results, ideally, if you could get them to us by Census Day of the spring 2018 semester, that would be lovely. And again, there's a number of ways you can do this. You could do this electronically if you want to scan and send. That's totally great. If you want to upload a document, that's fine. If you're used to TrackDat and you don't mind doing it, you can certainly enter your results as usual, but definitely upload the extra documents. TrackDat does not allow you to disaggregate. Or, send it through the mail, the old-fashioned way. That's okay. Anyway, hope that's helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm always here to answer them. And fingers crossed we'll come up with something easy that will permit us to give our attention to much more interesting issues. Thanks a lot, guys.